Okay, hello everybody. I'm Bailey Berlanti, VP of Business Development. I'm sure we've all met before because I see a lot of familiar initials in the Teams bubbles for this meeting. We're just going to give everyone another second to join. I know can get easily backed up with meetings and trying to jump in and out of these virtual calls. So we'll just give everyone one more moment and then we will get started with today's Central Command webinar. All right, I'll go ahead and go through my same thing of announcements. Michael, I think this is crossing the threshold. We've been doing these webinars for over a year now. So I'm sure everyone's got these housekeeping announcements down even further than I do. But today's webinar is going to be on handling exchanges and residual values. So we recognized all of the questions and comments that we've gotten in previous webinars, but we are opening up the Pandora's box of when you have an exchange come into the system and there's residual value left on an MCO, or there's something in the system for us to still need to track, and how we can make that a little bit easier and smoother of a process for you. So there is a way. Michael is going to be covering that today. He is excited and anticipating all of your questions. So the way to ask those questions is to be using the Q&A tab or using the chat box. So I'll be monitoring both of them, and I'll try to make sure that Michael gives us enough time at the end to cover them if you guys are really loading up them with plenty of questions. For the most part, everyone's going to be muted with your cameras off, so you can just sit back, enjoy, just be typing away those questions in those chat boxes. And this webinar is being recorded so that you can look back on it when we're ready to look at how we can do it for you specifically if you need to reference the video or send it on to another colleague that is having a hard time with exchanges. So that will be emailed out post-event, assuming no technical difficulties. And then, of course, we post it to our ServeVita YouTube page for more wide viewing. Just one thing on upcoming webinars. So we're going to be loading up November, December, and January. I've almost got December and January finalized, but November, we do know that our topic is going to be performance tuning your environment. So one thing we've seen consistently across several questions that we get asks for help and services has been issues with slow performance and how to make the system with all of the travel transactions, the file logs, the things that can be on the technical side, slowing it down. How can we make that to be a little bit easier so that you guys aren't sitting and waiting for things to load all the time on the environment? So we're gonna be talking about that in November. I will be sending out that information along with December and January's topics pretty soon after this meeting. So hopefully in the next week or two. But today we are talking about exchanges with MCOs and residual values. So I'm going to hand it over to the man, the myth, the legend, Michael Guyette.
Hello, good morning, everyone. Excuse me, happy Thursday. It's coming up to the end of October. And so don't forget, I know it's only 2 months away, but you know, yeah, 2 months away, Christmas Eve is coming fast. This morning, we got a different kind of topic. We're going to talk about something that's near and dear to my heart. And that's residual MCOs. I've been getting a lot of questions recently about what can we do to help with residual MCOs. And you know, some of the things when we look at CentralCommand, we've got a lot of data that's stored in the system, but if we don't take the time to think about certain aspects of what we do during reconciliation, ARC reconciliation or BSP reconciliation, we can run into, I'll call them false exceptions with regards to those reconciliations. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to go into my ARC reconciliation module. I'm going to go into my exception viewer.
Michael, you need to share your screen.
I sure do. Gosh. Let me refresh my screen here real quick, and so that I'm giving you thank you very much for telling me that. Share this screen.
There we go.
You should be able to see me now. Excellent. Okay, so what we're going to do here is we're going to go into CentralCommand. we're going to go into the ARC module, ARC exception viewer. And I'm going to come in here and I'm going to go back to my demo environment. My database is from the 21st through the 27th of April. I'm going to load this data. So this is the first time I go in for this period. I'm going to load it. It's going to give me all of my ARC reconciliation exceptions for this period. Now, I want to filter this down a little bit. I want to look for some specific things with regards to MCOs. So here my 899, I'm going to come in and say, show me just my 899 ticket numbers. And what you'll see is as I come in to look at these now, I've got a lot of transactions here where it says this is demo data. So my IAR ticket's not in CentralCommand. I'm going to go rule those out as well. So I'm going to come into my other errors. I'm going to say, don't show me that exception number 17. I want to look for just the IAR residual MCOs that I have in the system. Now, the first time I run my reconciliation, I'm going to get 2 errors for each one of these tickets. Okay, so for each residual MCO or for each MCO, I've got ticket exchanged in IAR, but original ticket not found in CentralCommand. I've also got ticket is an exchange in IAR, but not in CentralCommand. Well, what I want to show you then is let's go in here. Let's go grab this ticket number. I'm going to come over to my reports. I created a new report and I dropped it into my shared across companies folder called TACIAR report. So I want to look at that specific ticket that we were talking about here. So that's that. So when I look at that specific ticket in my IAR boss file, what I get here is that I've got the original ticket number here, okay? But my type is MX, okay? My type is NX. My IAR ticket type is an N, okay? Now the problem is because this MX is seeing it as an exchange of itself. Okay, so what that means is I had an airline ticket that got exchanged and the new ticket was issued for a lower fare than the original. We generated a residual MCO for $517.56. And when I did that, the problem is that now my amount in my IAR file doesn't match because it's thinking it's an exchange and it's looking for these exchange things of different parts of it, which are an exchange. And so what I want to do here is, and I've been playing with this for these questions coming up, saying, what can we do to help the reconciliation work? Now, that's the first piece, right? If I change this to a ticket where the IAR ticket type here in the screen is a T, and I change the trans type to ET for ticket type, then let me do that real quick. Hold on. I'll show you what I'm doing here. Well, I'm not going to show you what I'm doing in my SQL, but I'm going to show you, let's see here. This is I just have to put in this ticket number so that I'm looking at this exactly. And let me run this. Because I'm going to show you here. Okay, so now when I refresh this screen, up here at the top, I'm just going to refresh this report. What it did is I changed it from an N to a T, and I changed this transaction type to ET. When I do that, okay, yes. When I do that, I'm going to come back over here. Not parse. I want to reconcile. I'm going to come in and I'm going to re-reconcile that same period. '21st to the 27th. You guys know me. Can't talk and type at the same time. Okay, so now when I go into my exception viewer here, okay, and I start looking at that first ticket number, watch, keep this in mind here when I do that. It cleared the exceptions. Now I come back, that ticket number has now been reconciled. The reason it's been reconciled is because the IAR ticket, or the ticket number, if I go back over here, I'm going to jump into CentralCommand, okay? I'm going to take this date out. I'm going to put my ticket number in here, and I'm going to load this. So in CentralCommand, I have a ticket that has a total amount of 517.56 that matches exactly. Our report go again. Sorry. Go back down here to my our report. My ticket number in there. Do this. So now what I have in CentralCommand, I have that ticket number for 517.56. So what we've done is change this so it reconciles as a ticket, a residual MCO, as a ticket. The data now that's in the IAR boss file matches what's in the CentralCommand database, right? So now I've got a residual MCO, because if I go in and I look at this, when I look at this that came in from the GDS, it's not an exchange ticket. Okay, so our problem was that when IAR boss file sends us that data, it comes in with that MX type code on it, and an N as the transaction type. And it thinks, CentralCommand thinks that we've loaded up from the boss file an exchange ticket, but we haven't. It's not an exchange of itself. It's just a residual MCO. So by changing that value, I'm now able to reconcile this so that it reconciles exactly on the amounts. Okay, now, here's my question to you first. When you have a residual MCO coming over from IAR into CentralCommand, it's going to come over as a sale. Okay, so this is the form of payment here is AR. The sale is going to get posted to my customer account as an open AR amount. First of all, in CentralCommand, I want to clear that to be 0. Okay, so we'll talk about that in just a second. But on my question to you then is, in the IAR ARC Corp website, do you go into that residual MCO and do you zero that out so that it deducts that amount from your net amount on your IAR? Okay, if you do that and then we download the updated boss file, when if we don't change this transaction, then we're going to get an amount discrepancy that says IAR says it's 0, CentralCommand still says it's 517.56. Two things I want to do here. Okay, the first is I'm going to take this 517.56 and I'm going to put a negative amount here, 517.56. Okay, this is going to do two things for me. Okay, and I'll show you what those two things are. The first thing it's going to do, it's going to change the total amount to 0. What that means is XB50 is going to pick it up. It's going to post it to the accounts receivable, and it's going to post a reversal. So it's not going to show as a sale in the accounts receivable. It's going to show as a 0 value. It's going to zero itself out on the account receivable, and it's going to be able to pull that. The second thing it's going to do is I'm going to come back in here and I'm going to, let me just change this date real quick back to the 21st. I'm going to re-reconcile that same ARC week again. Okay. If I go back to my exception viewer and I load these tickets again, so it's running the exception here. When it comes back up in my exception viewer, there we go. I should be getting, let's see here, where did I should be getting an exception now. I should have it here. You just give it a second. I should be getting an exception that says I've got an amount discrepancy because my IAR in my database still says 517, where my now central command says 0. Okay. So if I zero it out on both sides of that equation, then I'm going to be able to reconcile it to 0 again and be able to pull that up. Let me go ahead and just rerun that reconciliation again. It may take me twice to do this. So just bear with me 1 second. Because I want that to come up and show you this exception in the ARC reconciliation as well. So it's going through the reconciliation of those. And I don't know why it's not pulling it back up here. So let me just. Probably because I didn't save it down here. So that was user error. The system was working fine. I hadn't saved it yet. So that's why it did that. Okay, so let me re-reconcile that again. So because I've changed that to the total amount to be 0, now when I re-reconcile this, the IAR boss file in my test environment still shows it as 517.36, right? So now when it reconciles, I should come up with that ticket ending with 4, and it should give me, there we go, my gross amount discrepancy. IAR still says it's 517.60. Central Command says now it's 0. Okay, so what I've done is I've zeroed out the Central Command residual MCO amount, which sends over the reversal to the OpenAR account to close that off because the customer doesn't owe this money. And if you're zeroing out that residual MCO amount in the IAR environment to make sure that your net remit amount for IAR is correct, then when you reconcile it against this transaction, it'll again balance to 0. Now here comes the question. When you have this residual amount sitting here, what do you do with it? How do you track it? How do you make sure that you got money sitting there on a customer account that they can use in the future? Here's my thought. My thought is to come over to Central Command. We go into, let me just make sure I have the amount that I'm looking at here. This was 517.56. Okay, so what I'm going to do, come over to Central Command. I'm going to go into the ticket matching folder. I'm going to go to unused tickets. I'm going to add here. Oh, that was 1 second here. 421. Got to have the date. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put my 421 in here. And I'm doing all of this manually. We would talk about automating this for us, right? I'm going to paste my ticket number in there. I'm going to say this was a full amount, and the amount is 517.56. Okay. And then I'm showing that I'm creating this unused ticket today. Okay. When I save this, the system goes in and says, show me, okay, the number of tickets processed was 1 because I just added this 1. The number of tickets matched as unused is 1. And the number of transactions matched is 1. What that means then is if I come back up to my transaction inquiry print invoice, and I look out here. See this unused flag right here? If I put in an F for fully unused and I load this, probably have a date I need to clear here. Let me clear that out. Load. So now what I've got is I have tickets that have a 0 value. So my amount on these tickets, oh, I had reset them there real quick. Where's my, pull this ticket up here. I'll do two things to show you this in just a second. So here's my ticket now. This is my residual MCO. I have a 0 amount showing here on it, but if I go in to this ticket, if I go into the financial zoom, I can still see what the value of this residual MCO is. Okay, so I can still see it was the original value was 517. The other thing that I can see here is my status, meaning it's an A. If I exchange this residual MCO for a new ticket, when I come back to this transaction, that status is going to change from A to X. It's going to tell me that this fully unused residual MCO for $517 has been exchanged for something else. So it allows us to then be able to report on any of these residual MCOs. So let me go in here and look at my, nope, that's the wrong one. When I go back into my unused tickets screen and I load this again, so you can see here, okay, so right now this unused ticket is sitting there. It's got a full amount of 517. The status is still A, and if that changes to X, I'm going to be able to see that this was exchanged for something else. So we can start to use this data within CentralCommand. First, we want to be able to reconcile it. We know that we have the reconciliation. We want it, whether we want to leave that amount in there or zero it out like I've just done here, it allows us to make sure that the data that we're seeing from IAR matches what's in CentralCommand. We can reconcile it. If we change the value either here or in the IAR ArcCorp environment to those residual amounts to 0, if we change one or the other, we're going to come back with the exception viewer. It's going to say my gross amount discrepancy. If they're not exactly the same, I'm going to see that exception here. Once I load that unused ticket over into CentralCommand, then we can start tracking on when those residual MCOs are used. So there's a full process flow. We can automate, we can help you automate all of this information. And so the challenge really has been, you know, what do we do with residual MCOs? How do we make sure that we're tracking them? We're seeing when they're used, who used them, why did they use them? All of that information is available for us here in CentralCommand. Now, the updating of the TACIAR table, right, where I changed this to a T and this transaction type to an ET, I did that in SQL today. I have a way that we can automate that process. So it would happen at the end of your parsing and before your reconciliation. So instead of getting those two these two, ticket exchange in IAR, ticket as an exchange in IAR. So instead of getting these two, if we change that to a T ticket transaction type and an ET IAR ticket type, then it will reconcile because the amounts are equal on both sides of the house. Then if we change one or the other or both, you know, we would see these different types of exceptions. The third piece of that is then taking the data from IAR And I want to show you something here in this IAR report as well. I'm going to change my search criteria here a little bit because I want to show you in the IAR file the difference between a residual MCO and an MCO that's been used for something else. So if you look at this new ticket column, in a residual MCO, it's going to have that end status IAR ticket type, but it's not going to have a new ticket associated with it here. This one is a residual MCO. This one is one of those residual MCOs that has been exchanged for something else. Okay, so in here we can see those processes and be able to see how they were used. So let me look at something here real quick. I want to get down to, see if I can find one here. What I did is let me pull this back up here. Do search criteria, and in the ticket number, I want to just look for 899 asterisk. So I'm just looking at only my residual MCOs, right? And I've sorted this by ticket number because what I want to see here is as we look at this, you can see that all of these residual MCOs have been exchanged for other tickets, okay? And then as I come down here, you can see this one was voided, so it's just looking at this data, it tells us what we can do with those. And the issue is that because IAR in that boss file, it sends us this transaction type. They're telling us to put the MX in here and the N in here. The problem with what they're sending us is that it doesn't allow us to reconcile it as a straight residual MCO. Okay, so that's really what I'm doing here is I'm turning these more into MCO issued tickets that we want to be able to find, reverse out of our AR account so that they're not affecting our financials or our net remit ARC reconciliation, and then giving us the ability to automate posting these into that unused ticket table so that we can start tracking. And with that, I've gone a little over 35 minutes here, so I'm going to open it up for questions. Bailey, do you have anybody who's asked us a question in our chat?
I do not have any questions yet. You've been very quiet.
I'm going to start
shocked and awed.
People. Tanya, I see you're sitting here, and so does this help you understand how Central Command can help you? Now, I'll do one more thing for you here, and I'll come back to that. But Tanya, does this help you, or have you thought about what you do with tracking residual MCOs and how the IAR reconciliation works, and would this help you getting rid of some of those false exceptions so you don't have to look at them anymore? Okay, so I know there are a lot of people on here that I could start calling on because we've had these issues in the past and we've never really thought through what we can do with them. But I do want to show you one thing that I've looked at here. So I'm looking at the IAR table within the web environment. If I go back over to my Central Command menu, if I was going to look at that same screen here, I would come down to View ARC Ticket, okay? If I take my ticket number here, let me find my ticket number here, and I'm going to paste that ticket number in here. So when I go in to look at this view ticket, okay, I've got my view ticket. Let me find a different one here, show you a different one. I'm going to just look for all of my residual MCOs. So what happens is when that MX comes in, okay, we're looking at that type MX, we have a ticket number. Let me change this to show all so I can see. I want to get past these actual used MCOs. So here when we look at this, we're seeing that the data here, see this column out here? Okay. Tells me this is why Central Command in our exception viewer saying it was exchanged in Central, or it was not exchanged in Central Command, but in IAR data it was exchanged. So what it's doing here is when I have that exchange column, and we do this by looking at that MX IAR ticket type, that IAR ticket type tells us, hey, IAR is telling us that's an exchange. And we have the same ticket number here as we do in the new ticket or the original ticket number field over here. So that's why it's telling us that's an exchange. What I did, rather than looking at the this view ARC ticket screen, I went in and looked at the table itself. That's what this is. This was a report I created off of the table within Central Command. So I'm looking at the same exact data, but I'm looking at it a little differently because I needed to see this code type. I needed to see this IAR ticket type because this is telling me it's a new ticket. This is telling me it's an MX, an exchange. And so that's why I'm able to change those two values. We could help you automate that. We could change those two values so that they could reconcile as a residual MCO to the boss file. And then, depending on those values, we could reconcile it based on the values as well. What's in Central Command versus what's in the IAR file. Okay.
So, okay. Sonny just said yes, this would help with tracking better and to help with false exceptions. Another question is this application the unused ticket tracking only in the web version of Central Command, or is it in the desktop version of Central Command?
It's in the desktop version as well. If you go into the transactions folder in the desktop version, you can go down, there's a folder underneath transactions called ticket matching. And if you go into ticket matching, the unused ticket screen is in there. You can copy and paste in the desktop version where you cannot copy and paste in the web version. So when you're looking at this unused tickets, okay, in the web version, I have to add additional rows here and I have to put them in. Or we do something where we automate inserting into the table, and then in the menu, what we do is run this server process. And what this server process does is it says, okay, now take the data I've put into that unused ticket table and go match it against the Central Command transactions. Okay, so the web version, yes, it's a little more cumbersome because you have to enter them one at a time or import them in a flat file from a flat file. But on the desktop version, you can copy and paste. And to be honest with you, the only thing is required in that screen is the issue date and ticket number. If you put the issue date and ticket number into that screen in the desktop version and you save it, it will go out and it will find that ticket and populate everything across that screen. Okay. So I showed you a little bit more on entering that value, those values and things, but Central Command will populate that screen based on the information that's in that Central Command transaction. Now, the reason why let me go back to that. Don't want this part up. I want to go back over to my unused tickets. This also would allow us to say, you know, we've got an expired MCO here, right? So if you've gone over 13 months and they can't use that ticket anymore, you can come back in here and set this to expired. So we don't accidentally use an MCO and it comes over into Central Command and we get a debit memo for it later, right? So you can do expired, you can do fully exchangeable or fully unused, or if you've got a partially unused MCO and you want to track it. So if I've got an MCO that has, so I'm using, instead of using all $517 of that exchange, I'm only using $200 of that exchange. I'm going to get another residual MCO for the other 317. It would come in here and there would be my partially unused MCO, right? So I could change that and update the amounts and do the things I needed to do with that. Okay. So there are some things that we can do there.
Another question, can you provide where I can load MX ticket types as ours come in as TT? There's nothing in the table for MX.
So can we take that question offline, because I want to see the data, right?
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. We can do that, because all I did in this report when I was pulling that up and I searched the criteria, you can change that search criteria to look for whatever you want, right? So if I wanted to say, okay, I want to see that IAR ticket type, that's down here. Status and IAR ticket type. So now if my IAR ticket type down here is MX and I wanted to look for just those MX, or I want to say they're in list maybe, right? If I come down here and say in list, then, oh, so those are my adjustments. That's, I grabbed the wrong field there. And criteria, and this is going to be my trends type down here. Okay, trends type, and if I say in list, when I tab off of that, then I can say TT or MX, right? And this is going to be in, this is going to be in your exchange. Okay. So yes, you can use the search criteria when you're building a report. You can use that search criteria here to be able to find that out. If I was looking at the view ARC ticket here, notice that those fields are not displayed on this screen. So that's why I went out and created the report, so I could go and look at those different things. Okay, so that TT, the MX are not displayed in this ARC viewer. Let me see if they're actually even in the list here real quick. They may be, they may not be. Go into the grid. Yeah, so they don't even have it listed here for me. That's why I did have to, I knew I checked it, but that's why I had to go out and create my own TACIAR report. It's a browser. I'm doing a browser on the web here, just like if you're in the desktop, you could go in and do a browser off that tape. You know, very easy to do. Anything else, Bailey?
Not right now. I guess one thing that maybe if I can throw in a question, can you just summarize, we've covered more from like the central command side of tracking the tickets. Can you summarize the financial implications of how the amounts are showing up in the financials across this process?
Absolutely. So if I come back over to, let me just come here and refresh this screen. Okay. So if I go into Central Command and I go into my ticket number here, and I do my 899 asterisk 4, because it ended in 4. I don't remember the exact. 899. That's user error. Sorry about that. 4. Okay. So if I go into this transaction and I come here and I say, it's going to be down here. I want to go to view AR details. Okay. When I look at AR details, what I have here, see this 517? Okay. when that MCO comes into the system and it comes in as a ticket in Central Command with an AR form of payment, it automatically, XB50 picks it up and it sees that as an AR form of payment with a value on it and the ticket information. It goes ahead and it posts that to the open receivables, the open AR in the Central Command financials module. So it does show in the financials as a sale on that customer account. Now, what I don't have, give me 1 second and let me go in here and turn on. I don't have the services turned on. So let me run XB50 real quick. It'll just take me a second to pull this up here. So Bailey, while I'm doing this, do you have another question?
Nope.
Oh, okay. All right. So what I want to do now is I'm going to go in and I'm going to start my services, and we're going to see what XB50 does to this transaction. So almost there.
Need to get like some Jeopardy, like waiting.
I prefer dating game, you know. No, I prefer the dating game. So I know that's and so oh right. Maybe I just don't have it scheduled here. Let me go back down to Central Command, financials, financial processing, and that should be there. We're going to run this. And so now what I see here, this is I kicked off my XB50 here. As that XB50 now runs in that environment, it's going to package up every change I've made, all of that stuff that I've been doing here. And what'll happen is as soon as this finishes, I'll get my GLO7 and we'll be able to see that it posts that reversal of that sale for that ticket. There's my GLO7 is kicked off. As soon as this finishes, I can come up here and I can look at this report. Of course. Give me a second here. And this is, you know, you always have demo error things going on, so I apologize for that. But I'm going to this. I'm going to drag this up here so you can see this. So this is my posting here. You can see that I have my posting. What it's doing is it's posting into my AR account. It's posting that credit in there into my AP account, into my sales and cost of sales. So what it's doing is, because when that MCO came into the system first, it posted a receivable on that customer account. It also posted that a payable went into my my ARC reconciliation account, right? What this does is it's reversing it out of those two accounts. So when I go back to my web, close this. Going to close this again. It's going to take a minute based on whenever my TPS runs. But when I can come back down into here, into my AR, what I'm going to see here, notice that, okay, now my 517 has already gone. because I changed the value in the CentralCommand transaction to be 0. Remember, I changed that credit amount in the prepaid service field to balance that out to 0. It then went in and it reversed it. If I look at my historical items here, now you can see that it had the sale and now the reversal posted into that financial transaction, because the residual amount isn't something the customer is going to be charged for. It's the airline giving us money back in the form of a voucher to be used at a later date. We don't want it to see it hit the ARC reconciliation account, the 2108. I also don't want it to hit my AR account that, somebody has to go think they have to go chasing the customer for money. So that's what we've done there. All right. Questions? More questions?
Nope, no more questions.
Really expected this to be some talking points, folks. So if you have any questions, if you think of something after you want to review the recording that we've done here, I'll tell you what, I'm going to give you one more short tutorial, especially for building things in the web. Okay, I'm going to come up here and I'm going to refresh this. I'm going to right click. I'm going to close all activities. This takes me back to my main screen. Okay. When I said I built that report in the web to be able to go in and look at that IAR table. Okay. There are a couple of things that an administrator in your system will do. I'm going to come down here and under data model in the web, we have user-defined objects. A user-defined object is just our ability to go into the data model and create something so that we can see. If I type in TAC, it's going to find the one I created, which is called TAC-IAR. What it does, it says, okay, what did I name the object? I named it TAC-IAR. The description is the ARC boss file information. Okay, my source is the table, TAC-IAR, title in singular, title in plural. It is active. I have to put in key columns that I'm looking for. So in this case, it's the client company. It is the IATA number and the ticket number. Those are the 3 things that I put in there so that I can use them as keys to make sure I'm gathering that information. Once I save this as a reporting table, I have to give permissions to be able to see it. So that goes into system administration, access control, menu access. I go in and I create the menu access for that new view of a table that I've created. When I come back to CentralCommand now, if I go into create a new report, you'll notice that if you looked in this list, TAC-IAR is nowhere to be found here, okay? It's in other objects. When I click on other objects and I go down here to the bottom, this is my TAC-IAR. If I click on it here, now I can start creating my report. This is just like we do in the desktop. This is a browser, okay? I'm going to come down here. It's going to give me the list of fields that I can choose from. Up here at the top is my search criteria. That search C, this is what I'm looking at. This is being able to pick and choose. How do I want to search for this information? Now, the nice part about this is if I come down here and I go down and I'm just going to grab my gross amount here, just one field. But now down here at the bottom, I can do expressions. Just like you can in the browser, when you right click and you add change expressions, I can create a new expression using the same functionality, the same terminology that we use in the web. We have the ability to do these expressions here as well. So this tool set on the web does help you or can help you do exactly the same things that you're doing in the desktop. and be able to publish it a lot quicker, a lot faster, because you can share it across companies. When you go in here and you create that report, when I saved it, I said, be able to use this across companies. It is in my shared folder, global reports. And so now whether I'm in my US client, my Canadian client, my UK client, everybody could have access to this same report. Okay. We can also bring in data from different tables into a report using this tool. So there's quite a good tool set to be able to do a lot of things that you're used to doing in the desktop, still in the web as well. So don't think there are any limitations to using the web, because as Unit 4 continues to evolve Central Command in the web, we're reducing those numbers of limitations that we had seen in the past. And if you're not on Central Command 7.7, version 7.7 right now, we've been told to expect 7.8 close to the end of the year, somewhere end of November, beginning of December. So be thinking about, even if you've recently upgraded to 7.5, 7.6, there have been changes, enhancements made to the application. Let's keep thinking about upgrading and making sure that you're staying current with the application. It's going to help you in the long run. And with that, Bailey, I think I probably talked to everyone's ears off.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Michael. Like I said, you said so well. The recording will be available for review. I know we've got a question that we're going to follow up with to make sure we actually answer from the presentation, and we will talk again in November for performance tuning your environment. And as always, reach out if you have any questions, or if there's anything that you saw Michael do that you want to have set up for your own environment. We're happy to help you with assisting with getting that set up. Okay, bye everybody.
Thank you.